Hey, all right. It's time for T's Weird Week News. I'm T. Krulos.
And I'm Heidi Erickson.
All right. How's it going, Heidi?
Amazing. I love it here. Everyone should come visit. How are you doing?
I'm good. So I was just telling you before we went live this week, I did kind of a fun table reading, I guess I would say, where me and some buddies we read through the script for the cremation of care ceremony in the Bohemian Grove, which is happening this weekend,
Mhm.
probably right now if you're listening to this podcast when it comes out later in the week. So this is something we talked about on a previous episode, but last year they had canceled the whole summer meetup at the Bohemian Grove because of COVID, which I actually think really helps disprove some of these conspiracy theories because if this is some plot to like control the world, they didn't do a very good job because they had to
Yeah.
cancel their big summer
Yeah.
shindig.
You would think these masters of the universe or whatever would have been prepared for that eventuality. If it was all just like a plot to get us microchipped, they'd have been like, whatever. See you at
Yeah.
Bohemian Grove, George Dubs.
But I love this theory that you pointed out because last summer was the first time in 141 years that they did not do the Grove meetup. And you pointed out some very interesting things, like we all remember how Mitch McConnell's hand turned black. It was super weird. He
Right.
looked like he was turning into a corpse.
Yeah.
Mike Pence, of course, was being bombarded by Beelzebub style flies.
That fly was obsessed with him. It kept landing in his hairpiece. It was really embarrassing. It was
Um,
super embarrassing. I mean, to be fair, those are trademark like demonic manifestations. I'm just saying, like,
right.
I don't make the rules. That actually is a thing. So that's
It
weird.
it
Maybe,
was this during the ceremony they burned this effigy that they call Dull Care, which is supposed to be like a demon that represents their worldly cares and stress and stuff like that. So maybe this was Dull Care coming at them because they failed to burn him.
or wait, what are they? What is the fucking thing that they say that like all the rich people in the world all get together and they drink this like part of the this chemical from the brains of
Oh hell yeah,
the person or
adrenochrome.
adrenochrome. Maybe that's
Right.
what like they're burning the effigy, but what's really happening is they're all having adrenochrome martinis and they skipped it that year and just started falling apart. Can't get need some of that sweet adrenochrome. Whatever, you guys. What's funny? Like you talked a little bit about this. What's it called? The cremation of care.
Yes.
And so the
Yeah.
whole idea of this is that they're taking all their little things in their life that bother them,
Yeah.
their
Um,
receding hairlines,
right.
their
Yeah, I would say, especially it's supposed to represent like bullshit paperwork and like meetings that you don't want to go to and like all of that annoying like work stuff. So when they burn this
yeah,
effigy, it's like giving them permission to party in the woods and not worry about the outside world.
sure. Yeah, it's interesting because like there actually is in a couple of folk magic traditions like a lot of very similar rites where you literally like write
Hmm.
down or speak out loud your troubles and you burn them to take them away. So I mean there's something to be said for a group of people getting together in the same spot for 141 years and doing this thing where they burn their cares away. Because I mean, to be fair, how much paperwork are those assholes really doing, right? Like that's intern shit. Am I
Yeah.
wrong?
Yeah.
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 Like I think they probably like pick an intern from their pool of interns and name them dull care and just toss them in there Wicker Man style. The bees, like that's my guess. I don't see
Yeah.
why you wouldn't. I
Yeah.
don't
And
see why you wouldn't.
the interns that let them down, they end up getting burned in front of
Yeah.
this owl.
Yeah, that's a double soy decaf vanilla bean latte, asshole. You screw that up again and you're going right into the owl.
So
by the
it's
way.
back, but I've seen indication now that it's back on this year. So
Oh, well,
they're
good.
they're meeting up at the Bohemian Grove. I'm real curious to know who are the members these days
You
because
know,
a lot, and this was a concern the club had. A lot of their membership was getting old and dying,
yeah,
and the young Republicans these days might not
uh,
see the value in being a Bohemian Grove member like their
yeah.
dads did. So,
Young Republicans just don't understand black magic the way that their grandparents did. You know, I think it's real weird to me too, because like, okay, let's be real. And I feel like I don't want anybody to think that I'm crashing on Christians because I'm totally not. I know some very nice Christian people, bless them. Um, but like most of these people, when you think of like powerful, like rich people, tend to be people I associate with like being members of like that kind of evangelical, like, whatever, pro-life. It just seems interesting to me that a large group of people who consist, I mean, largely of that kind of person are like, what, in the woods, holding hands, wearing robes, chanting around a giant flaming owl. That's weird. That's weird. Nobody
yeah,
never not no, that was never at Sunday school. You never happened.
yeah, yeah.
Little I kind of want footage of it. I kind of want to play it on YouTube. I kind of want everybody to see it. I don't
Well,
you think
there is, so this all comes back to there's been many journalists who have snuck in. One person managed to get video of this ritual, and that
oh,
was, you guessed it, Alex Jones of InfoWars snuck in there with a friend. He had a camera hidden in a duffel bag, and they recorded this very sort of motion sickness inducing shaky video of this ritual.
mm,
And a lot of the conspiracy spins from him because his interpretation wasn't that, oh, these are just these powerful men that are doing this sort of, weird hokey tradition, but he was like, they're sacrificing people to Satan in there, and who knows, it could be babies. They could be sacrificing babies to Satan, and like really
yeah.
kind of riled up the conspiracy thinking because of this dramatic interpretation he had.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. But Alex Jones is the same guy who thought that like the frogs were turning gay, right? Am
Yes,
I
right.
mixing up my nutcases? Okay.
That's him.
So that's what what's terrible, T, is that if he snuck in there and he actually did see them like sacrificing people to Satan or like, I don't know, wearing white after Labor Day or whatever the fuck it is you're not supposed to do, we wouldn't believe him. Like if he saw that, we'd be like, okay, Alex, whatever.
Well, a lot of people do believe him, though.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the same people who think the frogs are turning gay. We don't believe their
Right.
asses either.
Right.
Everything's relative. Relative reality. Okay, so I mean, they're doing it again this weekend. So I guess we'll have to
Yeah.
see if they
Let's see
all
what
look
happens.
more hale and hearty than they did before. I'm curious. I'm
Yeah, and I'm
curious.
gonna try to see. What happens is once in a while people will leak out of the Bohemian Grove a membership list or a program, something like that. So
Did you
I'll
tell
keep
me
my
last
eyes open.
Did you tell me last year that that's like a dudes only situation too? It's like a
Oh yeah,
strictly sausage party situation going on there.
it is. It always has been.
Those guys are
They,
banging. There's
they
no way.
well, yeah. I mean, it's rumored that that it does happen in there. But yeah, it's been men only since the inception. There was an attempt at a lawsuit about that in the 70s or 80s, but the judge ruled that because there's not a lot of bathrooms, so men urinate out in the open, that site would be too shocking for women members, and so they had a right to be men's only because of their blatant urination all over the place.
Sure, sure, sure. So those people have never been to any kind of music festival out of doors ever in their lives. Got it. Understood. It doesn't matter. Dude parties are always boringer. Keep your stupid cult stuff. We need you dumb boys anyway. Okay, well that's cool. I mean, I'm a little bit mad that there's no evil ladies there or evil lady identifying type people. Like what if like no, that's stupid. It doesn't matter. I'm going to dress up as the owl. I'll
As
never see it coming.
the Great Owl of Bohemia.
Yeah, I'd be awesome as the Great Owl of Bohemia. I totally have an outfit for that. It's fine.
Here's
I'll
a comment from our friend Shane. He's correct. John Ronson wrote a book where he actually snuck into the Bohemian Grove. It was called Them Adventures with Extremists. And he snuck in the same night that Alex Jones did, actually. And his interpretation as a sane journalist was a lot different than Alex Jones. In fact, one of my favorite lines from that was he said, something like the Grove reminded him of these men who had reached like the apex of their careers, but emotionally they were still stunted, like they were still in college. They were reliving like
right.
their college days where they get to run around the woods and pee on everything and drink and like do this weird ritual that only they know about.
Yeah.
I should promote myself by saying I wrote a book called American Madness. It has a couple chapters about the Bohemian Grove and a man who attempted to raid it with a pretty heavy arsenal named Richard McCaslin. I write all about it in my book, American Madness. So,
Fantastic. Well, good for them. I hope they have a lovely time. We're going to have more fun this weekend than they are, and I'm just going to say that right now. So there's
yeah.
that.
Yes, UFO days. Super fun. We've been kind of sharing different Wisconsin UFO lore over the last few weeks. Last week, for example, we talked about the three competing UFO capitals of Wisconsin, who all claim that they are the best in small town UFO sightings.
They all have their own little festivals too, but
Yeah.
only this one is during the summer. The other two are more towards the end of October, like a Halloween type
Oh, yeah.
situation,
That makes
which is
sense. Yeah.
just, I mean, I get it, but like it's too hokey for this one. This one feels authentic because I feel like, first of all, reading about this guy who runs it, whose name is Benson,
Yeah.
Branson, Benson,
Benson. Yeah.
Benson's Hideaway.
Yeah.
Like reading about him and his experiences going all the way back to his like youth, like 100 years ago, and like knowing that this has been going on for like 30 years, 40 years. This has been going on since the 80s. They've been having this. Just makes me this feels more real to me. Like those other two towns would really have to like jump. They'd really have to like. I'm just saying there'd have to be some serious shit going on for me to think that was more authentic. But we'll see after this weekend. This man claims to have a fucking alien in a jar sitting on his bar. So we'll see what's going on.
Molly says hello. Hello, Molly. Good to
Hey
see you.
Molly, how you doing?
Here's another comment from Shane. He says that you, Heidi, could start a female-only Bohemian club. Actually, there was an attempt to do such a thing. It was called the Belizean Grove, and I forget the details of it other than it was like it was organized by a woman who wanted to have like a counterpoint to the Bohemian Grove. But I
Yeah.
don't believe it exists in any form anymore.
Well, you and I have talked about this before, and part of the reason that like weird stuff like that happens and it feels weird to us is because like Western society and American society in particular, we don't have like weird spiritual rites and rituals like that. Like it's just not a thing. It's not a thing that we have. Every other culture on earth has it. And I think it's very important. I don't really feel the need to like get dressed up with a bunch of super rich ladies and walk around the woods naked. I have neighbors, so anytime I want to do that, I can just be like, "Yo, Kathy, what are you doing? You want to have some wine? Let's light this fucking owl on fire." Yeah, I don't know. I got nothing to say to those ladies anyway. I feel like there's people I'd want to hang out with, and like I don't know, light stuff on fire with and change the world with it. Almost none of them are like Hillary Clinton. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Not interested. No
Yeah.
thanks. Good idea, Shane, but no thank you. I'm cool.
Oh, okay. So I'm sorry, I got us a little off topic here. We're talking about Wisconsin UFO stories, which is a great topic. Someone here on Facebook is saying "Alien in a Jar." That's a must see.
Yeah.
Well, we can't see your identity here on StreamYard, but whoever you are, you should meet us there at UFO Days, and you
Yeah.
will be able to see the alien in a jar.
Yeah. It's only like 45 miles from here. And listen, it really is supposed to be dope. So everybody comes up to this little town for, I think is it the whole weekend or is it just Saturday? We're
Just
just going
Saturday.
just Saturday. So you
Yeah.
go up, there's this place called Benson's Hideaway, which is a bar in Dundee, which is right off of Campbellsport. The population of Dundee, if I'm not mistaken, is 515. It's little. And yet there's this bar there that is entirely UFO themed. Just like you think there's that famous bar called the Little Ailey Inn that's out
Hmm.
by Area 51. We were talking about that the other day.
Yeah.
I remember seeing like they did a cameo of that bar in the movie Paul, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I just lost my shit because I've always wanted to go there. So
I've
it's
been
all
there.
I know you said that. I'm so jealous of you.
That's good.
So this bar is all alien themed because this guy Benson. Did I say that? I'm gonna keep on thinking it's wrong.
No, it's
He's
you're right. It's Benson. I think
it's
it's either
Benson.
Bill or Bob Benson. It's Bill Benson, I think.
Yeah, he's this guy who's just lived in this small town for his whole entire life and like had an experience 45 years ago where he saw a UFO in the sky that scared all the cows out of his neighbor's barn. And from that point forward, had a series of other UFO related incidents. And there's this mountain, like Dundee Mountain or whatever, that like locals there going back to time out of mind have said there's something under the mountain and weird stuff comes out over Long Lake. So they've been having this festival for like 45 years and like there's 6 or 7 different years where there was like the people go and camp in the campsite across the way. They recorded strange lights and objects in the sky over Long Lake while they were there for this weekend. I watched some of the footage, and honestly, some of it, I don't know. I don't know. Because like some of that stuff was before you could just get a drone or whatever, that wasn't a thing that you could do. And I don't know what they shot in the sky those nights because it was fucking weird. And hundreds of people saw it. So now it's kind of a thing. I guess a lot of people go to it. I don't know. We're gonna go. It's gonna be a thing. And allegedly, this man does have an alien in a jar. I couldn't tell if it was tongue in cheek. I couldn't tell if he was kidding, but allegedly, someone went to Area 51 and picked it up for him, like at a gift shop. I don't know. But he says it's a real alien and it's in a pickle jar on his bar.
Yeah. It's here I put up our banner, Wisconsin, Scotland, or Florida, because that's where a lot of our stories come from. It's hard to tell in northern Wisconsin
It
sometimes
really
if
is.
someone is pulling your leg or if they think that they are telling you the truth or hoaxing or what.
Right. Right. A lot of weird
Um,
things.
here's um here's another great Wisconsin UFO story. This is a classic, and I'm gonna read this short paragraph from my book, Wisconsin Legends and Lore. And this is something you mentioned last episode, but I don't think you meant it in this context, or maybe you did. But anyway, here on April 18th, 1961, Joe Simonton claimed that a silver craft landed on his property in Eagle River, Wisconsin, and that 3 strange humanoids exited the spaceship and
Yeah.
began communicating with him by making gestures. He determined that they wanted water, so he brought them some, and in exchange, the visitors gave him 3 small pancakes,
Yeah.
which Simonton described as tasting like cardboard. As silly as the story sounds, the Air Force actually did investigate it.
Right. And like you don't know because we live in the middle of no place. And if you were an alien and you didn't want to get busted buzzing like the dirt planet in the backwater and you had no choice because you needed to stop for gas, you wouldn't stop in the middle of New York City. You'd stop on Ed Blojo's farm in the middle of fucking, whatever Dodge County. And that's this guy seemed like he benefited 0% from telling anybody that story, except that people thought he was crazy. That's it. That's it.
Mhm.
I also feel like maybe those things he gave him weren't actually pancakes, which makes me sad because what if they were like some form of data transmission? They're like, thanks a lot. Here's how to fix everything. And he was like, fucking stupid monkeys. God damn. But I often say now that, yes, when we talk about aliens, I'm like, I want pancakes. So anybody else want pancakes? So I'm really hoping that when we go to Dundee, that Benson's Hideaway has a pancake breakfast special. I think that they will, and that's what I'm going to have. I'll have that,
they
please.
they would be smart too. They should advertise them as being like
Yeah.
from this, Eagle River incident or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. Also, if anybody out there has like a really excellent like alien costume or wants like I'd really love to go to this thing dressed as Barbarella. I think that would be super fun. Just let me know, hook us up. We'll do it. We'll do the damn thing.
Cool. Hey, here's an interesting comment from Molly. She says there was a Wisconsin documentary submitted to Twisted Dreams this year, and the guy says him and his wife were abducted from their car while driving
Oh, those are my favorite stories.
and then
And
put
then,
right back in their car after.
oh, that's crazy. Do
So,
they do they remember what happened while they were being abducted, Molly, or do they just remember? Was it just like a missing time thing where they
hmm.
were in their car and then there was a light, and then 4 hours later they're back in their car? What happened?
Uh, and by the way, this thing that she's mentioning, Twisted Dreams, really cool horror film festival that happens here in Milwaukee every year. I
Is
think
it? I wanna what?
yeah, they did an online only version of it this summer, but they're gonna
Oh,
hopefully be back in person this year
oh,
or next year.
they
Next
only
year,
do
yeah,
they only do it once a year? That's
yeah.
so sad. Please do it
Yeah.
again. Do it again. I missed it the first time, Molly. Do it again.
And she says, yeah, they remembered the whole thing.
Oh, did they? And this was in Wisconsin, you said. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I'm not
there you
surprised.
go.
And I've said this to people many, many times. Like I've lived in a lot of big cities. I was homeless for a time in a large city. I'm not scared of any part of this town at all. I'm not scared of any city place ever at all. But those back roads way up in the middle of nowhere in the north woods of Wisconsin, hell no, dude. That's where you got the Mothman, you got the Dog Man, you got the Frog Man, you got UFO, you get cat face UFOs, little green UFOs, you got a big tall like
You got
everything is
the cheese man.
cheese man.
I just made that up.
You cut it out because I thought there was a cryptid that was made of cheese for a second. I didn't have room in my cryptid like library for that information. Yeah,
she
Sasquatches.
she
Oh, you
said she
talked.
got to talk to the director. That's
That's
cool.
awesome.
And she says Twisted Dreams will be in person next year, probably at the Avalon.
That's
Very
pretty
cool
cool.
spot. Nice
What
old
if
theater.
what if we had a miniature Twisted Dreams, Molly, in my backyard where I have a movie screen? I do. I have a movie screen, and we can just sit in my pool and we can review the best ones, right? Like we do a reaction video to the best of Twisted Dreams live from my pool. Just
uh,
putting it out there.
You know what that reminds me of? This they've been doing this for quite a while, but every summer down in Texas they do a screening of Jaws where people sit in the
Yeah.
pond in inner tubes
Yeah.
and then you're super creeped out because you are in this
Yeah.
dark pond.
Yeah. Fun facts like, okay, so it makes such a huge difference. I'm serious, Molly. That's not a joke. Ask T. If I said that's what I want to do, I fucking meant it. I'll get a quarter barrel. I'm not fucking with you. Um, it matters where you see a movie. It super matters. Like
Yeah,
seeing a creepy movie in a theater like the Avalon or the Oriental or the Rosebud is a
yeah,
way different experience than seeing it in like the big deluxe ones with the big red seats. The
yeah,
first time I ever saw the movie Signs, you remember that classic?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I saw it with my mother, who is terrified of aliens, by the way. We saw it at a drive-in movie theater outside of Shawano, and the way that this drive-in movie theater was set up, there was 3 different screens set in 3 different places in a giant cornfield. So you had to drive into this like round space in
Whoa,
front of this screen in this cornfield. So once you were parked in there, you couldn't get out until it had to be a fire hazard until everybody left. You had to wait your turn, and there was nothing around you. You couldn't see anything except the movie screen and 4 walls of corn for
wow.
the movie Signs. which is a movie
Yeah, that's
about aliens in
in a cornfield.
cornfields.
Yeah.
And it was like one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. And I like that movie, but it's definitely not the scariest movie I've ever seen. But it's plenty scary when the wind blows through the corn right next to your car and you're like, oh my God. Like, yeah, it makes a huge difference. Huge, huge
That'd
difference.
be a good double feature with Children of the Corn.
Yes, amazing. Good idea, T. Oh, I love this
Yeah.
very much. I feel
Yeah.
like there's like, they have allegedly, I'm obsessed with the catacombs under Paris. I love
Hmm.
the catacombs under Paris because there's hundreds of miles. They don't even know where all the catacombs under Paris have gone. And of course, the catacombs were in their entirety at one point in time a giant ossuary, a huge graveyard. It's where they moved all the bodies in Paris during the Black Plague when they were just piling up and there was no place else they could put them. There are these cavernous places deep under the earth where people like live essentially. They kick it and they were like, like chuds or whatever in New York, which is another cool thing. But they have huge movie theaters that they've stumbled on where people clearly have set up movie screens and elaborate sound systems, and like the authorities have stumbled upon these things while they were empty, only to come back a week later trying to catch people and everything is gone. The wires are ripped out of the walls and there's just a note that says, "You'll never find us." And I'm like, is that right? I love ossuaries, Shane. They're so wonderful. Do you want to go to that one in Romania? The great big giant one that's got the chandelier that's got like 115 skulls in it and the whole cathedral is made out of bones.
Yeah.
Oh man. Dark vacation. We're putting it on the list, the dark travel destinations. Boy, we
Cool.
just went off on a tear here, didn't we? We just got all kinds of
Well,
carried away.
let me completely change the mood here from
Please.
from from the creepy environments we've been talking about. But first, Shane says, "Is that a question?" Hell yes. Hell yeah is right.
Yes. Discount tickets to
Uh,
Romania. Here we come.
here's a much different bright environment. But if you're going to Romania, you'll have to go to it. There's this report that you found, I think, that says that Generation Z loves to hang out in airports.
Yeah.
That's like their thing that they do. They're not going anywhere. They're not flying anywhere. They're just going to hang out and go to the food courts and
Yeah.
people watch. I totally get it. I think I really
Yeah.
like being in airports actually. Um,
Yeah, I always have too. I've always enjoyed airports, bus stations. You know what I like? I was doing a little looking into that because when I saw that, I thought it was so interesting. Um, there's a trend in like literature, and like fiction in general, uh, and art into the representation of liminal spaces. Liminal spaces are the like places in between destinations, like
mhm.
waiting rooms, airports, escalators, um, that have just become more and more prominent in art and fiction and music in the last 10 years. So this obsession with airports, I think, has a lot to do with this millennial idea that they're stuck between two places, like the past and the
Mhm.
future. And we don't really have a set destination in mind. And the past probably isn't exactly like we were told it was. So we're just in this like airport lounge of existence. Also, to be fair, like the odds that you're going to run into somebody at the airport are really small. Like in Milwaukee, sometimes you just want to have a beer, but you don't want to like talk
Right.
to everybody at the bar.
Yeah.
Like, fuck this. I'm just going to go to the airport. I'm going to go to the bar nearest to the terminal coming in from Thailand because I don't know nobody from Thailand. So I'm going to be going to Thailand. I'm going to have a $10 beer and it's going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I do. My favorite thing, I'm love to get to the airport super early because I have a fear of missing my flight.
Sure.
So I get there early and then I'll, get a newspaper and a cup of coffee and
Yeah.
just chill out, just kind of walk around, people watch, you
Yeah.
know, look
I have
at,
three. Oh, go ahead.
well, this, I'll look at, like the incoming flights, see where flights are coming from and stuff. I find it
Uh,
relaxing.
yeah, because like you don't, all your responsibilities are gone. You don't have anything else that you have to do except get on the fucking plane. There's nothing you can do from the airport. Um, I have three things I love at the airport. I love the smokers lounge. I think we talked about this already because like there's not very many of them left, and the people who inhabit them are all eldritch beings, I'm convinced. There's a kind of bookstore that exists
A used
that
bookstore, very
yes,
rare
that is all books
here in
that
Milwaukee.
they found. This it's not the only one. It's all books that they found on flights or in luggage that never got claimed and collected or in the airport. So all
Hmm.
the books that are in that bookstore belong to somebody who was on their way to someplace else and they lost it or they dropped it. And I just think that's super fascinating to like go in there and see what kind of books people were taking with them and like wonder where it was they were going that they wanted to have a copy of Anna Karenina. Like, why would you take that with you on vacation? Like, what were you doing that you needed that book? I always find tons and tons and tons of copies of Terry Pratchett. There's always
Yeah.
so much Terry Pratchett in the Lost Books bookstore. And also like whatever the shittiest chain restaurant is in the airport, like Chili's or Applebee's or whatever, is always it's familiar to everyone. So people who are very tired, people who've been away from the States for a super long time, on completely different like schedules. So you go into like the Chili's at like noon in the airport and there's like some guy in a business suit. There's some woman who's like wearing Cookie Monster pajamas and like has her neck pillows still around her neck. Like there's somebody there in like full basketball like shorts and jersey. Like it's just the people who just are lost. This is the restaurant at the end of the world. And it's fantastic because it's so discordant and absurd and it doesn't make any sense at all. Any sense at all. Also, if you're in Nashville, that's where you can also find the absolute saddest musicians because the people who get stuck playing the stage at the Applebee's in the airport, like what the fuck is going on with your life? What are you doing singing Dolly Parton covers at noon in the Chili's in the airport? What the hell? I'm so sorry.
Here, so we have something special in the Milwaukee airport. I've not seen this in any other airport. I've never seen it called this before in any other airport. And
Yeah.
Shane pointed this out. We have what's known as a recombobulation area.
I love the recombobulation area.
And this is where you go, of course, when you've had to take off your shoes and your belt and empty your pockets. So you got your arms full of all your shit and you need a place to sit down and put yourself back together. Well, the
Yeah,
recombobulation area is where you do that.
those shouldn't just be in airports. There should be, you know what I mean? Like there should be recombobulation areas outside of shopping centers, big office buildings where people like work in multi-billion dollar offices. There should be a recombobulation area right outside of the Jenny Craig.
Right, right.
Any place where they sell two-piece bikinis, there should be a recombobulation area over there. Yeah, yeah, those need to go global for sure.
Okay, here is a rather disgusting story that you found.
Yes.
And it looks like they've had some problems on the set of Ultimate Slip and Slide. You want to tell us
Okay,
what's going on there?
this actually happened. This happened like last month. I don't know how I missed this story because it's just great. So NBC, I think, is the network who they're doing a new reality show, and I'm not entirely sure what the scoop on the reality show is. They said it was supposed to be something about like building like a backyard slip and slide, but it's going to be like there's big cash prizes. I get the feeling like people were like designing like the best like slip and slide slash water slide thing, and then they were going to build it,
Sure,
and then
the
people
ultimate
were
the
going to
ultimate slip and slide.
right, and then people would ride in it, and like whoever had the best one would like win a big prize or whatever. Well, unfortunately, that's not a really real thing. It was supposed to premiere the first week of August. It's not now because the worst possible thing that could happen on a water slide apparently happened to the entire crew of this Giardia, which is explosive diarrhea. So at some point during a real shit show, yes, Facebook user, that is exactly what happened. Oh, you make a good point though, because there's definitely like screen captures from this show, and it clearly shows people like inside of a water slide, right? Like people riding down this water slide. At some point on camera, there was a moment where someone had explosive diarrhea as they were going down the water slide. That's on film someplace. Also, at least once they must have had to drain the entire pool because yet another person had had explosive diarrhea on the water slide. And these water slides, they were big. They were the
Yeah.
kind with like loop to loops and swirly bits. So if you had explosive diarrhea at the top of the water slide, you're in for the longest trip of your life, is what is happening there. Apparently there were people who were collapsing and people who were sprinting, they said sprinting off of the set to the porta potties, and it was just all around a bad scene.
So part of the show was also the 100-yard dash into the
Yeah.
bathroom. No.
Yeah, my
Here's a good way to put it: the worst episode of Double Dare ever.
no, thank
You know what?
you.
This isn't exactly the same, but it reminds me. I saw this hilarious documentary sometime in the last few months. It's called Class Action Lawsuit, or no, Class Action Park is the name of the documentary, and it's about this water park slash like go-kart place out in New Jersey that was
Sure.
just so dangerous, and so many people got injured at this park. And
Awesome.
like one of the things I remember just being shocked by was they had this big loop that people could slide through. It was a water
Yeah,
slide,
yeah.
but people kept getting knocked out when they went to the top of this loop.
Oh my
But
God.
then after they did several test runs, they were having trouble figuring out why people were getting cuts all over themselves when they would go through the slide. And then they discovered what happened is a lot of people got their teeth knocked out and were stuck in the top of the loop. And people were going through the loop and getting cut by these teeth that were stuck to the top of the loop.
Oh my God. That's like a Goya painting. That's so fucked up.
And that was just like yeah, it was the loop is a
Ah,
Wile E. Coyote drawing come to life. That's totally what it looks like. Shane, and yes, Shane
oh,
is asking if the doc is good. It's really good. It's really cringe and it's really funny up until towards the end. They talk about this young man who died in the park because it was unsafe. And of course, this was very sad that he had to lose his life because the go-karts weren't
yeah.
functioning properly.
Oh my
But
God.
they had
Like,
so many problems with people getting electrocuted and like breaking their arms. It
okay,
was just
so,
crazy.
okay. I remember, okay, so there've been a lot of pictures floating around the internet recently of like the creepy, shoddy stuff that goes on behind the scenes at like traveling carnivals, you know, the kind that pop up in parking lots and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Pictures of people like they clearly had balanced out the roller coaster with just a couple of like loosely stacked 2x4s, like
Mm,
underneath various like whatevers and this, that, and the other, which I'm absolutely sure goes on because like a lot of carnivals are manned by people who like are making like less than minimum wage and like I
yeah,
know for a fact there's some traveling carnivals who they'll literally pay room and board, and that's what you make for being there. They don't give a shit. They don't give a damn at all.
yeah.
Um, but I think that people forget that way back in the day, like there were at least two that I remember when Ferris wheels were first a thing. Horrible Ferris wheel disasters where like dozens of people died because that equipment failed or wasn't put together properly or whatever. Because at that time, there were no regulations.
Right.
Nobody was going around checking to make sure that those things were held together properly, and they weren't. They were being held by like baling twire and curse words, and that's it.
And some
And
cotton
that's
candy. Yeah.
and that's it. And my question is, how long was that fucking park open? How many people got knocked out? And nobody went to that park and was like, okay, this is the fourth person who's gotten knocked out. on this water slide.
Yeah.
We're gonna need you to straighten out the Wile E. Coyote poop
Right. Right.
because there's fucking teeth in there and it's not proper. That's against code 112.40. Sorry, no teeth in the water slide. Yeah,
Right. Right.
like
No,
how
they
did they?
would. It was kind of. This was a funny part of the documentary too. They say that they would like put them in a first aid hut and like slap a bandage on them and be like, "All right, well, goodbye. That's the best we can do." And like a lot of
Dude,
people, the danger added to like this badge of honor. Where like, yeah, I'm going to Action Park because it's the toughest place, and maybe I'll get my arm broke. That will be so awesome.
what the fuck? Absolutely not, kids. If you're gonna break your arm, you don't need to pay to do it. You break your arm jumping off the roof with a blanket like a parachute, like a normal person. Jesus Christ. Okay, well,
uh
crazy.
Yeah, here Molly's mentioning there has I saw this video. It's
Yeah,
there's a ride that looks like it's gonna fall over and a bunch of people are like trying to hold it
yeah,
upright so they can get the
yeah.
people off.
Yeah, fun fact, you
Yeah.
guys. I don't know if you know this, but those carnivals are super messed up for a number of reasons. But one of the reasons they're super messed up right now is because there's a huge shortage of inspectors in the country at the moment. So
Yeah.
a lot of those places are running on like permits and shit that absolutely were not verified by anybody. They were essentially like written in crayon on construction paper, and like the cops aren't checking for those permits. Really, they're not looking too close, and a lot of them are like I love carnivals partly because they're dirty and dangerous. I have to like I get it. Like,
Yeah.
are you really on the tilt-a-whirl if it doesn't smell a little bit like puke? Like it's you're not. And I get that, but like anything, like I'm not riding any carnival rides until the world straightens its fucking underpants back out again because I don't trust that shit.
No.
Absolutely not. The last time I got into a carnival ride, I 100% guarantee you the guy who took my ticket, the guy who was in charge of flipping that switch and checking my seatbelt, was 112% on ketamine at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
There's nothing anybody could say that would convince me that that man was not on fucking animal tranquilizers. His eyes were completely like he was not a little bit either. Like he was fucking like hanging out with Paris Hilton fucked up. He was messed up. And that guy didn't double check to make sure all the bolts were tight. There's no way. His own bolts were not tight. There's no way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just gonna not Action Park, not any park. No parks for me. I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't trust a lot of those things beforehand,
No, don't.
especially after seeing a video like that. I'm
There
like,
aren't enough
nah.
inspectors. There aren't enough inspectors. We have half as many inspectors as we're supposed to have for that stuff. And most of
Yeah.
them will go and check out like the big theme parks like Six Flags and stuff like that because that's a big corporation
Right.
that they can fine if things aren't set up correctly. They can't fine those little people. They ain't got no money, so they don't
Well,
care.
I thought you said find at first because some of
Oh,
those carnivals they could just
yeah,
disappear into the night. You would have
that's
trouble
legit.
finding them.
That's legit. You're right.
To give them
Correct.
a fine, you wouldn't be able to find them.
Yeah, right. Like the Fae, they'll just like sun comes up and there's nothing but dew and like one red apple and some meth sprinkled on the line. Okay.
Well, here this story is a little carnival-ish. I did not know this, but we all need to pour one out for Big Jake. Big
Oh,
Jake was the world's tallest horse,
oh,
and he lived here in Wisconsin and died earlier this month. He was a
oh.
Belgian gelding horse. I'm not sure
Mhm.
what that is. Here's interesting. I didn't know that you measured horses like this. He was 20 hands and two and
Mhm.
3/4 inches tall, which
Yeah,
equates to be about 6'10" and three
yeah,
fourths inches.
yeah. Don't they weigh them by the stone still as well?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
yeah.
I didn't write down his weight, but he was pretty heavy. Uh, he died at age 20
Oh,
at the Smoky Hollow Farm in Poynette, Wisconsin.
that's pretty old for a horse that big. So it didn't, okay, question. Am I wrong? I think I remember that the world's tallest recorded man was actually he donated his body to science, and they ended up having his entire skeleton system on display somewhere, if I'm not mistaken. I think that he did. I wonder if they'll do that with this horse too. That would be really interesting to see.
Big Jake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When
they should. And they should
they should.
display it here in Wisconsin.
Yeah, they totally should. It makes me want to sing that song from Parks and Rec. Bye bye, little Sebastian. Anybody remember that one? Hmm.
I haven't seen Parks and Rec.
Oh my God, really?
No, I
It's
don't
a
think so. I
it's
think I
a
saw one
hoot.
episode.
It's a
Yeah.
hoot. You should watch it. It's super good. There was the horse. They were in love with it. Laughs, laughs, laughs. Oh, that poor little horsey. That's kind of a sad little story. But I mean, yeah, 20 is pretty old.
Little
Hopefully he got
horsey, he was the tallest horse in the world.
it. It doesn't matter. It's like dogs. It doesn't matter how big a dog is. A dog is still a pupper. It's a puppy. He's a pupper. If he's very little, he's a pupperino. But he's always a pupper. That's just how it works. They're all little
Oh, I
dogs.
see. I see. All right.
Hmm.
So, I didn't even throw up the banner. I need to throw up the banner again. Wisconsin, Scotland, or Florida. Well, Wisconsin was home to the world's tallest horse. I don't know who the second tallest was, but
I'd believe that about Scotland too. I could see Scotland they got a lot of horses in Scotland. They like their horses over there. Okay, let's see. Let's travel far afield. Oh, I saw this week that there's a guy, he's like one of the heroes in like this dude that
oh yeah,
dresses up like Spider-Man. He dresses up like Spider-Man and he's in Italy and he goes to children's hospitals and he like
right.
visits children dressed as Spider-Man, which is the thing that he does. He obviously couldn't do it over COVID, but he did it virtually. Like he couldn't go to the hospitals, but he had like fucking Zoom meetings with sick kids dressed as Spider-Man. That's how he spent. Your Zoom meetings were not nearly that cool, I promise you. So he was like, it was a big deal. And then Pope Francis came to town, and Spider-Man was like, I gotta meet Pope Francis. I gotta meet Frankie. I gotta meet Big Frankie. So there's this amazing photograph in the paper of like Pope Francis leaning over this dude who went to the Vatican dressed as Spider-Man. Spider-Man was in the Vatican. It's canon. Get on it, you guys. And he brought a signed Spider-Man mask for
For
the
the Pope.
Pope, because he wanted the Pope to know that he saw like these children, like, or I don't know, some metaphor that he was working on. He's Italian. What can I say? So I don't know. I thought that was really beautiful. And Pope Francis afterwards, all he had to say about it, they were like, what did you think of Spider-Man? Like, or whatever. And Pope Francis was like, he was a very good hero. And that was the end of it.
I think he gave the Pope a mask because he wants the Pope to sneak out of the Vatican and swing through the alleys and beat up bad guys. If there is bad
Yeah.
guys in the Vatican, I don't know.
Oh, honey. Yeah.
Well, it's true.
Yeah.
You could start in his own. You could start in his own house there.
Since medieval times, all the baddest people.
But I like visualizing the Pope wearing the Spider-Man mask,
Pope.
and then the rest of the outfit is his Pope.
Spider Pope. I mean, okay, so I'm like not a big, huge fan of like the Catholic Church as an institution. Possibly because I was raised Catholic for a portion of my life, and once you get out of that, you're recovering. Like that's how it works. Also because, the history of evil or whatever. But I do fancy Pope Francis. He's not perfect, but he's, I think, probably the best Pope in my lifetime ever. One of the things I really like about Pope Francis is he actually, like, the Pope has all these guards, these like royal Swedish guards who wear these ridiculous Candyland suits and have like pole axes. Like they're gonna defend the Pope with pole axes because they think he's gonna get attacked by a giant squid or something. But he sneaks away from these people at night. And what he does is he goes out dressed like a regular priest and he ministers to the people of Rome. Like he's been caught doing the foot washing thing and like feeding people and going and giving poor people their last rites. Can you imagine being some poor person in Rome, like dirt poor? Your life is miserable. You're hungry, starving to death because it's horrible. And then like you're laying there in the gutter and all of a sudden the Pope is standing over you to give you your last rites. I'd be like, thanks a lot, guy. Next time bring a fucking sandwich. Still though,
Yeah, what if it was the Pope standing over you dressed as Spider-Man? Then
Spider Pope. I'd be like, this is the dopest ever. And I would die. I'm like, Spider Pope, sign my forehead. And give me a fucking yeah, so that was beautiful. Weird. We're having all the laughs today, you guys. Oh
um,
man.
well, that's cool. It's nice that this guy was using his spare time to do something nice for sick children in hospitals.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I really like that he went and like was like, "Hey, Pope Francis, you should know that there's these sick kids. You should maybe look in on that." I think that was ballsy. I think it was ballsy to go to the Vatican dressed as Spider-Man. I don't know if I'd have had the nerve, and I got some nerve. I really do. Holy crap. Amazing. He should have gone as Mephisto.
Well, and this Spider-Man I'd say is better. Remember when we talked about last season? There was like a Brooklyn Spider-Man,
Oh yeah.
much more uncouth because he was
Yeah.
like walking around drinking Hennessy and shit talking everyone dressed as Spider-Man.
Times like that. Like if he saw like a mugging in like in progress, and instead of like going up and fighting the person who's doing the mugging, he just like took a pull off the bottom and was like, "Hey, dickhead."
Hey, get bent! I'm trying to walk here.
Spider Pope, Spider Pope. Andrew, Andrew, you're gonna
Gotta
have to
do a
do the Spider
remix,
Pope sign. Yep.
right?
Gonna Spider Pope,
It's gonna
la
have
la
to
la.
sound like the '70s Spider-Man show with a hint of like some classic Italian in there as
Yeah,
well.
you gotta put it over like a harpsichord or something. Make it classy. Make it classy. Something Frankie would like. Shit. Okay, I'm trying to think. Was there something? I don't know. I've totally lost track of all the stories we meant to tell. We just went on a fucking roller coaster ride this
Yeah,
episode. I like
yeah,
it though. It was
yeah. I do
organic.
too. It
It
was
was
an
organic.
action park style roller coaster
Right. Look
where I
out for the
just kind of
teeth.
crashed, right, crashed into everything.
Here's your band-aid. See you later, kid.
Oh man, yeah. That part of the dock just cracked me up when they were getting cut by the
Dude,
teeth that were embedded into the roof of the
dude.
loop-de-loop slide. Oh man.
You know what's so crazy now is like in millennial land, I feel like that would be a draw, and the sign would literally be like, watch out for the teeth, and like you'd have to just sign a waiver with like part of me wants to work the medic tent at Action Park, but run it like Ed DeBevick style. So like if you get there, like I'm just gonna be like, so you can't ride a water slide, like so
Right,
you
right.
just so is this your first day with a head? Like, what are you doing? Here's a band-aid, get the fuck out. Like it's in New Jersey. I could
Yeah,
do
right.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, there was
Fine.
in the documentary they said there would often be fights in the parking lot between people from New Jersey and people from New York. So
Yeah, sure. For who gets to ride the teeth first? You guys.
oh man.
You guys.
Okay, well this was fun. This is interesting conversation, Heidi.
It really
Uh,
was.
we're going on another adventure, as we mentioned earlier, to UFO Days this Saturday. That's in Dundee, Wisconsin.
It's gonna
Um,
be
if you
wild.
want to check it out, it's at Benson's Hideaway. So you
Hmm.
can Google that and figure
Yeah.
out where it is. Uh, and we'll be reporting what we see out there in Dundee in the podcast for next week.
Yeah.
And okay, I think that's all we got. Check out
Yeah.
our prior episodes at tcrulos.com. You can find a link to all of our episodes there. And we'll see you later.
Stay weird, everybody.